I am so excited to be here, and I got so lucky to be the guy that got to come out here right after lunch when your bellies are full and you're at peak attentiveness and you're in a dark room. So this is going to be really exciting. I'll do my best to keep you guys awake as we go. But I'm excited to be here. One quick housekeeping note as we get started. We really appreciate the excitement and everything around the keynote addresses, you guys, that we've shown you here today. But we're contractually and actually ethically obligated to not be posting those on social media. So feel free to post your insights and your thoughts, just not any recordings or anything from those, okay? Just want to kind of remind everybody of that. And we know, that's one of the things about leadership, right? I'm up here sharing the stage with some incredible leaders. And honestly, for me, it never ceases to amaze me the caliber of people that we have here at Beachbody. To hear the speakers that have come through here today, and knowing a lot of you, you've told me that this is your favorite Beachbody event for that reason. Because you get a chance to hear from leaders, and they talk to you at a different level than they do at other events, which is true. And if I can be honest for just a minute, and kind of echo something that Jessica felt, when I was asked to talk on the first 30, my initial thought was, well, that's not a leadership topic. That's too basic. That's too simple. And it's true, it is. If I were to come out here and just talk about what the first 30 is, it would be too basic, it would be too simple for this group. So as I thought more and more about it and kind of wrestled with it, honestly, I thought, what I need to do is talk about the why behind the first 30. And I think if we talk about the why behind the first 30, coupled with your understanding of what it is, then I have a chance to add some value. And hopefully you have a chance to have one of those epiphany moments that Michael and Jeff have spoken about. The first 30, you guys, it's a pretty, again, straightforward framework. We were trying to help strengthen or simplify and align our communications and all the things we throw at our new coaches, because heaven knows we have a lot of things we throw at them sometimes. We're also trying to bring to the surface some of the best practices that you showed us around getting a new coach started. And I think those things are all kind of understood. As I thought about it, I thought, there's also something else in there that I want to make sure that I reinforce. And that is that the framework is designed also to kind of reinstill choice in the onboarding process. I know a lot of you share kind of a similar, frustration or concern, which is how can I influence my leaders or my coaches to become independent leaders? And honestly, you guys, it really does start at the beginning. It does really start at the beginning. It starts at helping them make the right choices to grow their business, to see that their choices impact their business, and understanding that you can influence that. I'm going to share a study with you that I came across recently. In 1998, a group of 128 fifth graders were herded into a room at their respective school, okay? Now, I say herded on purpose, you guys. I have a fifth grader. And the idea of having him and 127 of his friends together in the same room, I can't even imagine the level of chaos that was there. But these researchers, they sat these kids down one by one, and they presented them with a puzzle. And the puzzle was designed to be very, very hard for a fifth grader to figure out. And they said, hey, within a certain amount of time, do your best to solve this puzzle. And so the student worked on it, and at the end, here's the deal. The puzzle didn't matter. It wasn't the puzzle that was part of the study. Because they told all of them the same thing. You did well. But that's where the similarities ended. For one group, they said, you did well because of your hard work. Your effort was what mattered. That's what made the difference. And to the other group, they said, you did well because you're so smart. It was your intelligence that made the difference. Now, this might not seem like a very big difference between the two. But it really is. And honestly, it's impacted me in how I talk to my own kids. And I want you guys to think about this. Those of your parents, obviously, in terms of your kids, will happen naturally, but in terms of your coaches. Because in the mind of a fifth grader, here's the key point. In the mind of a fifth grader, working hard, effort is a choice. They easily understand that. That's a choice that they decide. Whereas being smart, they see as something that they're born with, right? Something that's kind of out of their control. And so what the researchers were doing was framing their mindset, creating their mindset around a desirable outcome coming because of my effort and my choices, or a desirable outcome coming out of by chance or some external condition that I can't control. Now, what was the result of this framing of this mindset? Well, really simple. About a little while later, they brought all these kids back in, and this time they presented them again with a set of puzzles. Now, not just one, but a set. And the difference between each puzzle was different levels of difficulty, right? Some were very easy, all the way up to the very difficult puzzles again. And they told the kids that they could choose whatever puzzle they wanted to complete. And what they found was the kids that they told that were hard workers, where they reinforced hard work as being the determining factor. Those kids, time after time, chose the harder puzzles. They weren't afraid. They understood that their effort was what was important on the outcome that they were seeking. Whereas those kids who were told that they were smart, they chose, time and time again, the easier puzzles. They didn't want to put in the effort. They hadn't connected effort to being successful, and so they found the puzzles that they could do, they could complete, that would make them feel smart. Now, what does this have to do with your business? I want you to think about this in terms of your personally sponsored coaches. I'm going to introduce a concept to you that's a little bit technical, okay? So just bear with me here. I know it's hard, it's after lunch, but stick with me, we'll get through this, okay? The researchers were looking at something called the locus of control. Now, not locust, okay? The locus of control. So I put that little grasshopper there so hopefully you'll remember this concept, right? Think of the grasshopper. But locus is a Latin word meaning location. And the locus of control is used to describe or used to explain where a person places responsibility for choice in the things that they achieve and the things that happen to them in life. So a person who has a strong external locus of control outside of them, they view themselves as kind of like life happens to them and they just kind of react to it. That their success is really shaped on external conditions. Whereas someone who has a strong internal locus of control, that's the kind of person who feels like they kind of happen to life. That their life is kind of a reflection of them. That their success is a result of their internal decisions. Internal decisions versus external conditions. Now, why does this matter? Well, research again has shown time and time again that a common characteristic of successful people is a strong internal locus of control. The ability and the belief system, the mindset, that my choices are what really dictate my future, that dictate the outcomes that I'm looking for. And when I talk to a lot of coaches, okay, we kind of run into this sometimes. We see coaches that sometimes spend a lot of time and effort helping their coaches and spoon-feeding almost too much information at their coaches. And what ends up happening is they end up creating dependent fans instead of independent leaders. And at the core of that, in my experience, not the only thing, but at the core of that is this real simple concept. Have they ever learned how to make the choices necessary to be successful in their business? Or if I put in so much energy and effort on making things easy and handing things to them, that they never learned how to really make those choices for themselves. When we introduce the first 30, okay? There we go. When we introduce the first 30, part of the reason why we start there is the start matters, you guys. Again, think about framing mindset. Think about framing belief. The start matters. And so the framework of the first 30 is designed to help you keep that element of choice in the initial experiences of that new coach, where they are given some very simple things that they can do, simple choices that they can make to engage right away in their business. Now, we know they don't know everything, and I want to be clear about this. I'm not saying don't help your coaches. Okay, you're so good at that, but this is what I hear. Let me just tell you what I hear, if I can just be frank with you for a minute. If I had a nickel for every time I heard this statement, I would be, well, I don't know, I would probably still be here because I like being here, but I would be here with a lot more comfort in my financial situation. Boy, I do so much for my downline. If my upline coach would have given me all the things that I give to my downline, I would have been so much better off. I give these guys everything, and they don't do anything. Well, maybe they never learned how to leave the nest, you guys, because you never really helped them connect those choices. They never took full responsibility for their choices and the decisions and the outcomes of their business. So the first 30 framework, you guys, it's almost like training wheels. And I say training wheels because you have to give them some structure. You have to give them some foundation. It's like when I'm teaching one of my kids, I've got 4, and so I've done this 4 times, okay, to ride a bike. If I just put my hand on their back and I push them along, and every time they lose balance, I kind of correct them a little bit, do they really learn how to ride a bike? Sure, they might get a feel for what the balance is, but they're just used to me being there the whole time. If I put on training wheels, I give now the framework and the structure so I know they're not going to fall over. But 2 important things happen. First of all, they learn how to correct themselves when they start maybe getting off course, because they learn what it feels like. And the second thing is they learn a very important lesson, that to ride a bike, you've got to pedal. To ride a bike, you've got to pedal. So in the first 30 minutes, the reason why we said 30 minutes, 30 hours, 30 days, guys, it wasn't just because it sounded cool, and it does, by the way, but it wasn't just for that reason, okay? The first 30 minutes, you guys know that. The second they click submit on that form to become a coach, the doubts start coming in. Did I make a good choice? Am I really going to be able to be successful with this? And in that moment, they're already starting to look for answers. Do I then find the solutions for that? Do I figure out a way to resolve that concern, or do I have to wait till someone else does it for me? When they receive that new coach welcome email, and that email says, watch this video, and they choose to watch that video, and in that video, it reconfirms their choice to become a coach. But then it also starts to lay out for them a roadmap of choices that they can make. Not waiting for someone to tell them what to do, but simple choices that they can make. It's an important mindset change that we're instilling right at the beginning, which is this is your business. The choices you make are important to your business. Now, in that first 30 hours, after they finish that or complete the business quick start guide and now have their GSR call with you, that baton kind of gets passed. We facilitate those 2 steps, but you take that baton after that point. And that GSR call and the subsequent Coach Basics training, all those things that happen in those first 3 days are critical. From the standpoint of this, you have to give them the framework. You have to put on the training wheels. But do yourself a favor and don't start taking away their choices right away. If your Coach Basics does things like, here's the script I want you to post. That's creating, my success depends on external conditions. My coach giving me this stuff. Versus, here's what we're talking about. Here's the principle in Coach Basics. Here's a couple options or examples. Choose which one you feel is best for your business and apply it, or post about it, or talk about it. It's not so much what they say, but that they continue to get used to making those choices. Those first 30 days are so important, you guys, for a lot of reasons. The skill building and seeing successes and all that stuff that I know that you know. But underlying for their long-term success is also their confidence and their ability to make choices aligned to the outcomes that they want. And to have those choices be identified and rewarded. So as you look at your training, ask yourself, is the way I'm conducting things developing and driving this internal locus of control, or maybe am I doing too much? Am I in the goodness of my heart creating dependent fans in my business who will thank me and tell me how good I am, but I'm not allowing them to learn to make choices aligned to the outcomes of their business and to become independent leaders? I want to share with you real quick, some of the coaches that I work with, I talked to them a little bit about this, and I asked them to maybe share with me some stories of examples of this has happened. Now, we've talked about this today in the framework of the first 30, which is the part of the vital process that we're talking about this afternoon, the coach side of it. But this is a true principle, honestly, you guys, for your challenges as well, because those guys don't come to you typically with a strong internal locus of control, right? And so the principle applies either way. And I want to share with you a story that one of the coaches that I work with, her name's Audrey. I think she's somewhere out here, or she's at the pool. She's at the pool. She's going to be in trouble on our next mastermind call. But I want to share with you a story that she said. I'm going to read her words just because I thought it was very well put. But the story kind of illustrates, again, the point I'm trying to make. She says, in many ways, Cherise was like most challengers. She was frustrated with her weight and was looking for a solution. She knew I was a Beachbody coach. They were friends through an acquaintance. And she reached out to me for some help. After exchanging emails and getting to know her goals, I recommended Cherise do Chalene Extreme. And then she got on my next challenge group. She began the program, but found herself, for her, was a very familiar situation. Being born without the portion of her left arm, below the elbow, she wasn't able to do many of the moves in the program. Frustrated, she reached out to me. Cherise shared that she had spent her whole life more embarrassed about her arm than anything else, including her weight. And she felt like once again she was going to be unable to do something she really wanted to do because of it. Audrey goes on to say, I tried to help Cherise change how she was looking at things. I asked her what options she thought she had. And together, we figured out ways, and she, taking the lead on this, figured out ways to modify the moves using ankle weights and Bosu balls and yoga blocks. And if you see this, if you go on her site, you'll see her, how she uses Bosu balls with her left arm and yoga blocks to do the moves. And the thing for me about this story is Cherise went on to have a very successful experience in her challenge group. But if you ask her, if you talk to Audrey, and to kind of make this a little bit quicker, the difference was, in that challenge group format, Audrey was able to teach her that she could have choices. She could make choices that could change things for her, that she didn't have to react to these other conditions, external conditions. And she gave that back to Cherise. And when Cherise rediscovered that, she turned that into a real big source of motivation and power for her. She's gone on to become a 2-star diamond coach now. And all of her posts are really around this idea of inspiration. She posts how she modifies moves to have other people with similar disabilities, but also then to build belief and inspiration into other people's minds. Here's the deal, you guys. To me, that is a beautiful thing, one of the most amazing parts about what we do at Team Beachbody and what you do as coaches. When you help people identify and rediscover and develop this internal locus control mindset within their business or within the challenge group, that spreads to other areas of their business, or their life, excuse me. And when you help someone, when you return back to someone, belief in the power of their choices to shape their life, it changes their life. It changes their life. I hope you'll remember that, and I hope you'll think about that as you look at your trainings, because that's the opportunity in front of you guys. Thank you guys so very much. All right.